face traders, how are you today? Let's have a good week. See what's happening on the board, on our dashboard here. Those of you who are new, you have everything right on one page. Hope you're enjoying all the effort that the team put into the redesign here. Everything right there, everything right here. Everything here. I did watch Blake's week ahead video. So here are some of my thoughts today. Not that. And the Euro talked about 1720, drew this line on Friday, saying getting through 1720, basically it gives you a measured move to about 1920. Although I expect some resistance after they take out the stops here, if they do. So Dixie looking the same way. What would be comparable would be this line here for the dollar to start doing something right. Getting back over 94.18 would be equate to this 117.20 in the euro. So getting some more follow through in the S&P. So whenever I look at the markets, and the most obvious scenario right now is a weaker dollar, right, guys? You know, we had a double top. We've had a couple of down weeks in a row. So, you know, a lot of people looking for a head and shoulders, myself included, which would include a break to here, down into this 92 level. And it looks like a layup. But I was thinking about this. The only way the S&Ps sell off again is with a dollar turn. When Steve was talking about the dollar weakening, I said it should, you know, be supportive of the market on Friday, and it just, you know, exploded. You could call this 2740 a breakout in the S&P that would measure 90. But here we are at 78.6 back here. Same in the NASDAQ, 78.6 back here. And what would be the one market event that would trip everyone out now? So, you know, weaker dollar, risk on, strong S&Ps. How about all the 78.6s that are popping up? And that's where the dollar is now after this big turnaround. So, you know, I've always been a little skeptical of this double top because they never elected the stops. So I think the one thing that would trip up the bulls in stocks, the bears in the dollar, would be the dollar start digging its heels in here over the next few days, around 78.6 back, get back over 94.18. The euro, you know, maybe we go to the target 1920. It's possible, but if we start getting back under 1720, this line seems to be important. This was kind of a tag here. It broke, and then, of course, you know, and we had Draghi. So it's not doing anything wrong here yet. Okay, so, but I look at what would trip up the scenario would be the dollar digging it in its heels here, 78.6 back, and then blowing off one more time to take out this 95.5 double top. Most people aren't thinking it could happen until we're at least, you know, down here. Of course, we take out this low, and then, yeah, you know, then we're headed down towards this check of the breakout, right shoulder, 92.5, 91.70, but we haven't done that yet. So just be on alert for those critical areas to hold. The dollar index holding here, S&P's holding at the 78.6 level. We could do some work in both of them for a few days. Anyway, you guys kind of know what I'm saying here, that even though it might be an obvious dollar short here, S&P long here, the one scenario that would trip it up would be The dollar decline being interrupted for one more push up to shake out people above 95.50 that could take the dollar index to 97. So I always look at the opposite side of the market to be aware of what could trip up the majority. And I don't think anyone thinks we're going to take out 93.5 before we work a lot lower. So that's my heads up for you guys today. Also, oil is dogging it, and you know, we've talked about all the divergences that we've had in oil. Even though we went to new highs at 75, we didn't confirm it on the daily. It's glaring on the weekly. Really, the last confirmed high on the weekly was all the way back here at the beginning of the year. So we've had two non-confirmations. And I'm not saying we're going to have an oil crash, but I'd be alert. You know, if we had one more high and we're still not confirming high risk shorts, I'll be looking for maybe that happens over the next day or so. It may not happen. We could just roll over from here, but I'll be patient and see if they could take out the top pickers who thought they had it last week that may still have it, and see if they could pick off these stops first above 75.24. So those are my thoughts coming in. Be alert on the Dixie around this area over the next couple days, especially if it starts to turn up, because that could spoil the scenario for dollar bears, equity bulls, etc. Give me a Y if you understand the analysis. You don't have to agree with me, just the analysis. And also, guys and gals, remember, if you're not satisfied with what's going on with your broker, okay, Bob, and there's no law against having more than one account. You know, sometimes you need to have more than one account to have a basis of comparison. So get a hold of Trent at Forest Park FX and ask him, who do you think is the best broker for trading crypto or for trading CFDs? So here you have a free consult of guys that are registered here with the NFA and registered also in Great Britain with their regulators. So you're going to get ethical and compliant answers from these guys. No blue sky, no smoke, just a real deal. So give Trent a call at Forest Park FX. I believe his email's here. And if you're overseas, you can come up with a broker that will give you rebates to pay for your subscription here. See all the different brokers. So give Trent or Justin a call. So Blake, the heat was oppressive here. And but Stelios wants to talk about what's happening in the UK, but in Temecula it was 116. I was hiding out if I wasn't in the pool, and wow, I hate this weather. How about you, man?
It's not only is it hot, it's humid. So we're in a monsoon season, so it's like Florida hot over here. So it's the disgusting weather that we get once a year, and it comes by for about a good month, and it's pretty gross.
Yeah, I had to hide out. It makes you, you know, I was talking to a guy Saturday. He said, "How do you do it?" And he lives in Detroit. And I said, "Well, Mike, how do you do 30 below?" He goes, "Yeah, you're right." I go, "It's just the opposite. So you know, you stay inside."
Yeah, you do. It's a lot of that, and yeah, you stay inside. I mean, our pool is as hot as it is outside, which makes it really horrible.
It really is. The water's over 100 in your pool.
It is. It's like,
oh my 90, God.
It's like 95.
You guys are jump in there. You could be like a lobster.
It's gross. It's horrible. Like a lobster. That's right. You know, it's been a slow grind for the dollar. The dollar has been moving lower to kickstart the week. You can see we have this you know, double top that's playing out. You know, making our way down towards 93 and change, which is going to be like our first level of support. And like I said, the dollar's just kind of grinding lower. We've got the euro dollar that's moving towards the 78% retracement that we're at right now. We're challenging it. You know, we'll probably make our way up to 118.40, 118.50 here in the next you know, 24 hours or so. There might be a pullback soon, but I don't know if I would try to stand in the way of the euro dollar right now. I'll let Stelios talk about the cable here in a second, because the pound continues to rally, and which looks, you know, really strong at this point. And you got the Aussie is just ripping higher. The Kiwi, it's got the inverted head and shoulder pattern, but looks strong. The dollar Canadian is pulling back towards support, which we had expected, and ahead of the Bank of Canada on Wednesday. And the Swissy, you know, is broken lower out of this triangle. So the dollar just looks weak pretty much across the board. And will there be some sort of dollar bounce? It could be. Yeah, I was reading a bank piece this morning about how one of the major banks out there expects the dollar to benefit if the trade war continues to escalate. So that one of the key features of that would be a rally in the dollar as from a risk aversion standpoint. And I think you're talking about like a lower euro dollar, lower pound dollar, et cetera. But we're obviously not seeing that right now. But at the same time, if you look at stocks, the S&P rallied substantially. The NASDAQ, look at the rally in the NASDAQ, Dale. Just a huge rally since Friday, and before Friday, but Friday really escalated the NASDAQ and the S&P following non-farm payroll. So, you know, stocks look strong, and I think is, you know, what might be highlighted is any type of risk aversion may play into dollar strength, but we're not seeing risk aversion.
Yeah, we're not, but I mean, it's early in the week, but something that made me think about an alternate scenario was listening to you and your look at the week ahead on the Canadian. And, you know, that also augurs, besides the Canadian having its own characteristics of if the Canadian's going to be a buy down there, it's possible the dollar does turn around that time frame.
Yeah, you know, it is possible. I think that getting it dipped down towards this 130.50, which we're very close to, we're only about you know, 25 pips away from it. You know, getting down here is very doable, and you know, is that going to be the turning point for the dollar Canadian? I don't know, but it could find some support down here. I think it will. I'm going to play into it. But yeah, could that maybe foreshadow some dollar strength coming through? Possible, but again, we have to see some sort of risk aversion. Yeah, so I think the market needs to show some risk aversion in order for us to see that try to play out. So, and like I said, we'll see. I don't know if we're really quite there yet at this point in time. So I know Stelios wanted to talk really quick before I show some other charts. He wanted to talk really quick about Brexit. So Stelios, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. If you don't mind me talking now, I can talk after you finish, whatever you prefer. But I'm here.
No. We've got plenty of time this morning. It's a summer Monday, so I think we're fine.
Okay.
So a lot of news came out over the weekend regarding the UK, and we had David Davis resigned. And so what's happening with the cable? Because a lot of people thought that the cable would fall following that news, but it's obviously still grinding higher.
Well, here's my view, and you know, I've been thinking about this, and as always, I try to take a step back and see what the facts are. So, as everybody knows, the UK narrowly voted to leave the European Union. This is 2016. We've had all the negotiations, or basically grinding until today, until last weekend. And since then, the government and the nation has been divided into two camps, which is, the hard Brexit, we just get out and no deal, and the soft Brexit. And these two sides have been jostling for power, trying to get control. Now, I think everybody will agree that the hard Brexit scenario is bearish for sterling, and the soft Brexit is more bullish for sterling, simply because of the uncertainty, with the hard Brexit. You don't know what's going to happen. So on late Friday, Prime Minister May actually secured agreement within her cabinet for the direction of the negotiations going forward, which was a big move. It's a big win for her, and we have to note that May has always been on the soft Brexit side. She was always a supporter of no hard Brexit because it would really damage the UK.
Stelios, can you explain the difference? What's the difference between a hard Brexit and a soft Brexit?
Yeah, I mean, hard Brexit means the two sides split and there are no agreements on anything, or pretty much. So nothing on trade agreements or legal agreements or mobility of people within the countries. So it's basically a divorce, messy divorce, rather than soft Brexit is a divorce with a nice set of ground rules. I get to see the kids twice a week, you get to see them, and all that stuff. So that's the broadly speaking the picture. Now, what we have to point out that this agreement that the UK government came up with is not, it's just their preferred way of moving forward. This still has to be agreed and reviewed by the EU side, which is not a given. But always, it's nice to have one side, everybody singing from the same hymn sheet, or however you call that. Basically everybody agreeing on one side.
Right.
And just as for people who are not aware, this agreement it's quite a lengthy one actually, but the main points are that it includes a mobility framework for EU and UK citizens to travel, study, and work. So that part, which is crucial for the UK, the inflow of people is very important to the UK, both for academically and employment and all that. So that there would be a mobility framework set up. There would also be what they call the common rule book for all goods, within the EU, including agricultural products. So basically a set of agreements in terms of how trade was going to be between the EU and UK. There would be also a cooperative agreement that they said between the UK and EU competition regulators, and also a joint institutional framework which applies to courts of justice. So also the judicial side, again, is something that would be agreed between the two sides. Now, the details, who knows about the details, right? I mean, it's vastly complex, but it seems that this framework that the government agreed upon would include all these issues which have been the big question marks so far. And now the interesting thing is that David Davis, who was the head of the Brexit negotiations on the UK side, he was always considered to be on the hard Brexit side. He was very aggressive, and naturally he resigned, because the way it seems is that Prime Minister May and her side, which is okay, we're going to try and go for a soft Brexit, they took power and they took basically the upper hand. So he resigned, his deputy resigned as well. And I read that this has been characterized as as a hammer blow for May, or UBS I think brought out a note today that said, oh, this is terrible. But I thought it was practically unavoidable. If you're aiming towards one direction, then your prime minister and the rest of the cabinet actually agree something different, well, you're going to go. So at least that's my view. So
this should actually be viewed more as a positive for the cable.
Well, I've been bullish sterling, and you know that, and I think that there's nothing bearish about what has happened, because if you think about it, there's two potential scenarios where one of them we're always going to get to. We're either going to go to a soft Brexit or a hard Brexit. There's no in between. So what we're seeing unfolding this weekend was the beginning of what I think is a soft Brexit scenario. So, they take that view, the guy who's in charge resigns, they put this guy, Dominic Raab, in his place, who was also a minister before, and they now follow in that direction. Again, this needs to be agreed by the EU. So there's no, nothing big has happened yet in that respect. But I like that. I like the fact that the UK is now seems to be unified in terms of a government. And the only big risk now that I see is if for whatever reason we go to early elections and the Prime Minister May's government is in trouble, or if they lose the elections. So that, which again, I don't think Jeremy Corbyn would be able to win elections if they came anytime soon. So my summary is, I am still bullish sterling. The main weakness for sterling since 2016 has been the uncertainty attached to Brexit and the hard Brexit scenario. The Bank of England has repeatedly stated this, and now we are seeing the first step at aiming at removing this uncertainty. So for me, there's nothing bearish about this this development. Now, if the EU come back and they say, no, we don't care about what you're saying, you just agreed among yourselves, we're not going to do any of that, then we go back to square one. But until then, we have made a small step, and we see how it goes.
Well, and that's also, and on top of the bullish price action that we're already seeing in the cable, it's also got a tailwind right now with general U.S. dollar weakness across the board, which is just helping the cable along. So,
yes.
So. Yes. And from what I understand, Stelios, you're also putting together a blog that traders that are listening in can read in a little bit more detail about what you're trying to explain.
Exactly. Yes, that should be done today or tomorrow maximum.
Awesome. Well, Stelios, we really appreciate your feedback, because I know the Brexit situation is not it's not an easy subject for everybody to get their head around, and I know it's confusing and it's messy, and thank you for attempting to make light of the situation for all of us out there.
It's my pleasure, and as always, it's my humble opinion. That's what I think about it, but as I said, I'm going to put a blog together so everybody can have a read whenever they want.
Well, that's great, and you know what? I'm gonna tell you right now that I'm also bullish the cable, as I've got a bullish pattern in playing out, as we have.
Nice play.
Yeah, we have the descending wedge that's obviously playing its way higher. So I think technically it looks like 136 is doable, which is the 200-day moving average. So let's hope you're right, Stelios. Near term.
Yeah, Stel, I think the only thing that could change it would be if they put in the parliamentary water supply a bunch of Viagra.
Good idea, actually.
It wouldn't be as soft.
And then it's really going to be a hard Brexit.
That's what I meant. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Stel.
Thank you, Stelios, we appreciate your opinions. All right. Hopefully you guys have all you guys heard what Stelios had to say, and if not, and you're tuning in a little bit late, make sure you go back and listen to the recording of Stelios's recap on the Brexit. What's up?
Blake, I just wanted to ask you, with all the stellar weakness, are you a little surprised that the yen isn't giving up more ground here? I would typically say yes, but bond yields are still they're going up again.
Yeah, they're bouncing. Bond yields are bouncing, so naturally the dollar yen is going to go up. Stocks are unreasonably strong, so that's helping the dollar yen. So yes and no.
It's turned into a nothing market.
Yeah, I mean, the dollar yen has been extremely frustrating to trade. I'm actually not short currently, but I've been in and out of shorts probably over the last week, probably 3 or 4 times. So, and I think I've managed to make money every short. Some of it,
you get like a 1-hour candle with lots of action, and then you get 20 candles with nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of that is, to me, is like, okay, hey, the stock market is going to finally pull back, and then then we don't get it, and it's like it gets very frustrating. So
Okay.
I think I was short dollar yen a little bit on Friday, even following the numbers, and I stuck with it as stocks went higher. The yen went lower, but the only reason why, in my opinion, that we didn't end up breaking down is because, stocks continue to hold up really well, which they continue to do so. So, and it is very frustrating, Dale, very.
Okay, buddy. Just wanted your input on that. It's really kind of like a non-trade.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I'll wrap it up with before I pass it over to Steve here. And I know he probably wants to talk a little bit more in detail, and he could probably talk about some of the other precious metals. But I mean, gold rallied, and we rallied from this key support. We talked about it over the week ahead video, but you're seeing gold lift, silver also rallying with our inverted head and shoulder pattern, trying to play out to the upside. And again, this is one of those situations where you have precious metals are rallying, yet the dollar yen is not following. And typically the yen and precious metals will have a very parallel type of relationship, and we're just not seeing it right now. So, and it's extremely frustrating for those of us that are trading the yen. And I'll leave the other yen pairs for Steve, because the other yen pairs are actually moving. So, and with that being said, Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Blake.
How are you doing today?
My best. How have you been?
Good. We've seen some dollar weakness come into the market, kind of as expected. I mean, I know I was looking for it over the weekend with the week ahead video. We were expecting dollar weakness initially, and that's really just kind of playing out, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The DXY has yet to find the next area of support. We were looking at it last week on the webinar as well. Specifically, we were looking for 93.40 roughly. So I think that we have some room to move until we get there.
Right, and a lot of this, might be. And as I was mentioning a little bit earlier, and I'm not sure if you were listening in, one of the major banks out there expects dollar strength to be the dollar to be the biggest beneficiary should there be this trade war as it escalates. But we haven't seen the dollar respond. We haven't seen stocks respond negatively. Stocks continue to be extremely strong, and the dollar is weak. And I think the dollar is probably going to take its cues from equities. So, if the S&P continues to rally, I mean, look how we're pretty close to some resistance here. We're not too far away from all-time highs. So, stocks continue to stay strong. Maybe that's going to keep some downside pressure on the dollar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was explaining at some point, perhaps it was early last week or even the week before that, I think that the whole idea that a trade war is dollar positive is completely flawed from from an economic perspective. I mean, that doesn't mean, of course, that the market can't react their own way, because it's the consensus that, let's say, trade wars will lead to dollar strength. But I do think that in the medium to long term, trade wars will definitely hurt the dollar. I mean, there is no alternative to that. So, and I agree with you. The dollar seems to be just, responding invertly to what risk is doing.
Right, at least for now, and the dynamic may change in the future, but right now it seems to be risk on, risk off being dollar positive and risk on being dollar negative. So
exactly.
All right, well, I want to wish you guys all a great Monday. It looks like we have no football today, so we've got to wait until tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it should be an exciting Tuesday and Wednesday as far as the World Cup goes. Don't you agree, Steve? Are you betting on France?
I think that France has very good chances, yes. I think that France has very good chances. It has the most complete roster. It has the most expensive roster in the World Cup. We knew that since the beginning. I think it has amazing. I mean, even its second team, even if you made a team out of France's reserves, it could still compete, for the World Cup. So I do think that, they are favorites for sure.
So what do you make out of England's momentum here?
I think that England hasn't shown anything that great. They were since the beginning. They had a very easy path to the final, but I do think that if they make it to the final, it's just one game, and in one game anything can happen. They definitely have a very decent roster, and they have some good players. So it doesn't really matter if they reach the final, if they're going to be the favorites. I do think that they are they will stand a chance. Now, I do believe that England has a very decent chance of making it to the final, and the reason is because Croatia has played 2 consecutive games that actually went to overtime. So I think that for the Croatian players, it's going to be playing every 3 to 4 days and playing 120 minutes, and many of the players are players that have been playing in very big teams, which means that they played a lot of games during the regular season as well. So I do think that is going to take its toll, and I do think that it might play a role in how fresh the 2 teams are going to be in the semi-final. So I do think that that's definitely a negative for Croatia and gives an extra possibility for England to make it the final.
Steve,
right.
was it true that Putin massed troops on the Croatian border after that game?
No.
Oh.
No. But hey, just for the record, it's soccer. Just for the record. All right, I gotta go. All right, guys.
All right, I thought he would. In fact, if I refereed that game, I'd get out of Russia real quick. When you?
One last comment. Hey, just remember, EC President Draghi. He's also speaking at in European Parliament here in 30 minutes. Just FYI for everybody.
Oh wow,
that is true. That is true.
All right, see you guys.
See you, buddy.
Bye, Blake. See you later. Okay, so how have you been, Dale? First of all, how was the weekend, mate?
Good, buddy. I saw you were working at 2, 3 in the morning again on the weekend.
Yeah.
On Skype, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have much of an alternative because I had to do a lot of babysitting during the weekend. So,
yeah.
Working hours were mostly when the little dude was sleeping.
Yeah, while one of your partners was tipping him all weekend.
So, what do you think? What do you think about the dollar? I see the vast majority of the dollar pairs actually moving and giving us breakouts, and same with risk. If you remember, Dale, we were looking at the S&P on Friday, right?
Yeah, that's why Skype said good call. What's next? So it looks like you're looking for new. Well, that wouldn't quite be. Well, yeah, a challenge of the old highs.
Yeah, right? It's very likely. Let's see how today closes because we seem to be breaking out today, but it's too early in the day. I mean, let's say that you get a big reversal candle right on resistance. That completely changes how you view things, right? So I do think that if we actually close above this descending trend line, there are very high chances that we're going to be challenging the highs once again. I know that a lot of people are thinking like, oh, trade war this, trade war that, etc. But who cares? Right. I mean, the market does what the market wants to do, and instead of trying to trade, what you would wish the market to be doing, it's a better idea of looking what the market is actually doing and try to trade that, right?
Yeah, the only thing that would change it, and with what you're saying about the dollar, it's not going to change, would be for the dollar not to break down and hold and put in a previous the previous low, and we're 78.6 back in the S&Ps too. So
don't forget the dollar.
Yeah,
we were looking for these levels in the dollar down here. So let's see what the dollar is going to do here, because here here, first of all, it's going to fulfill this ascending wedges target. I mean, it's going to reach again the bottom of the target.
Okay, good
It's
point.
also, this 93.40 was resistance, several times support.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
also the extension of this broken channel, channel resistance. It might act as support this time. We've seen many times broken channels play a technical role afterwards as well. So let's see what the dollar is going to do.
So that would be the apple that upset the apple cart, is that if the dollar finds support, turns. And I know you showed me cash did not make a double top at 95.50, but I know most technicians that are using platforms, it looks like it does right here, like a double top. So I'm just skeptical of that double top still. So,
yeah, me too.
So,
me too. But on the other hand,
if the dollar turns and we trade 97, that's how you could have one more wave down in S&Ps, and should be the end of the dollar strength, and then we go up. One more jiggle.
Yeah,
that's
something. There is one more thing to consider though here, and that thing is the following. We do see that the dollar is reaching some kind of a support, which is not far away. But on the other hand, we're seeing several dollar pairs actually just beginning to break out from several formations.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say here is the following. Either one is correct. I mean, either some of the dollar pairs are actually breaking out from formations and they have follow through, they have decent follow through, in which case dollar should actually move lower than this first target at 93.40, or dollar is going to find support at 93.40, in which case we're going to be having a lot of false beginnings to have a look at. For example, just look at the USD NOK. USD NOK is just breaking below a head and shoulders formation neckline. Let's have a look at silver.
Head and shoulders.
Actually, let's go to the 4-hour chart. Inverted head and shoulders formation in silver against 16.50. Let's have a look on the daily chart at the Euro USD. Euro USD is just attempting to break out from this descending trend line. You can also see it as a triangle, whatever. So, it should make it to 118.50 again. And if it breaks 118.50, then you can even see it as a double bottom, right? In which case, you take the range of the double bottom, which is in essence 350 pips, and that would mean that we should see an extension back to 122. Let's have a look at the cable. Cable actually moved first from this descending wedge, but for me, as I had said, 133 was the confirmation, actually, because it was also horizontal level, and we seem to be breaking above it today. So if that's the case, if today, or if all of those moves get confirmed today, for example, cable can make it up to 136. Once again, Euro USD, as we said, especially if it breaks 118.50, can make it up to 122 because that's the target. Aussie is approaching resistance once again at 75, but if it breaks above 75, then that opens a lot more upside, etc., etc. So bottom line, as we were saying before, one of the two has to give. So we will either see some of those moves that are currently taking place to be very, very short-lived and trap people on the wrong side of the market, or we will actually see a much deeper correction or a resumption of the downtrend trend for the dollar. That's why I do think that the next couple of days are going to be very critical for us to get confirmation of what's happening here, right?
I agree.
I definitely like silver. If you remember, I have a long position, both in silver and gold, a quarter of a position of each, actually, that they had started building. So, to be honest, seeing this move higher, obviously I like it, right? Because, it brings my positions in the money, and especially if we get some follow through, I can even add to that. But I'm not that convinced yet. So I want to see, I want to see the next couple of days. We know very, very often that Monday flows are, can be faded very quickly. So let's see what happens up until tomorrow. Now, having to do with the bonds, because we mentioned about the bonds, and if you remember, we were looking at it together. Let's go at the 10-year once again. How does this move look to you, right? This is the ZDEN. This is the 10-year. I don't know, but personally, it looks to me like
bearish. We talked about it Friday.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think so as well. So I'm a little bit skeptical. I mean, I was initially looking, for one more high above this high in the ZDEN, but I cannot just dismiss this formation that I'm seeing here, right? I will only be able to view it at a different way if we actually break above this horizontal area of resistance and we close on a daily basis above it. Until then, I remain extremely skeptical about the treasuries actually pushing higher once again.
Yeah, you wouldn't have expected, like I liked them the day of the Fed. That was a great time to buy them. That was a spike low, but the fact that it developed into a wedge, I don't think it's a good sign. It could, if it would have had a different structure, I'd be more constructive. But yeah, wedges are pretty powerful in my view. I don't like to fade wedges. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's, in my opinion, probably the most reliable formations.
You ever wear those kind of shoes? Wedgies? Oh, you're too young. Huh?
Yeah, I know them, though. I know them.
Okay. I can't help myself, Steve. I'm sorry. Thank you, Faze, for putting up with my personality. I appreciate it. All right.
Oh, no,
go ahead, bro.
Your spicy personality always makes the webinar better.
Yeah, I like to make people laugh a little bit. All right.
I also wanted to show that after several days of struggle, as you see, Palladium also managed to hold this ascending trend line support. So so far so good. I mean, it's holding, so there is no event here, and Platinum is still recovering higher, which increases even further the chances that that huge day below here was just a day that was meant to take out every remaining platinum bull, right? Just look at it. I mean, very suspicious move, right? So it's not only it's not only gold and silver that are attempting to rebound, but it's also platinum and palladium. Now, having to do with copper, copper is attempting to rebound as well, but I have to tell you that the fact that copper actually broke below the 294 area, I think that this is a very big technical damage that can't be easily undone. It has actually triggered a double top. That double top is targeting down at 257 roughly. So I would be looking for rebounds to 294. So if let's say we make it up there, I would be probably looking to short that move than anything else, right? So I do think that copper from a technical perspective has already had its fate sealed. So now, other than that, crude. What's happening here with crude? I have to say the following. I was actually short crude. I took profits at the end of the week. I closed my pattern in play as well. Took advantage of that, the second spike lower that we had. And just look at how Friday closed, right? This is like a hammer on a daily closing basis. We never managed to close below this previous low that we had, this previous high that we had in May. And, as long as this horizontal area of support is holding, and given the nature of that candle that we had, I think we have to be careful because crude might actually push higher once again, perhaps towards this confluence of resistances here at 76.50 roughly. As you see there, we have this ascending trend line confluencing with the 61.8 of the larger move lower and the 141% extension of this move lower. So I do think that 76.50 is a good level to be looking to be short again. I think that this move higher is mature. So even if we see one more move higher, I think I'm going to take my chances again in shorting crude and at that time looking for a deeper pullback, or at least anyhow another pullback to this 72.50 to 72.80 area. But if that happens from 76.50, you understand that that's going to give enough of a distance for a decent profit to be made, even if the pullback just takes us back to this area once again. So that's what I think with crude. Now let's have a look at the CAD. Okay, CAD is still pushing lower. Since the beginning, I was looking. I know that Blake, I'm also looking to buy this. I think that Blake is looking actually at this trend line and some other confluences. So he's looking to get involved a little bit higher at 130.60. Personally, I'm looking at this triple confluence of supports down here at 130. Why? Because this is a psychological level. This is also the 50 DMA. It's exactly there. This is also a horizontal support resistance level. And this is also the area where this broken trend line resistance passes from. In this case, it might act as support. So, multiple areas of support passing from 130. I do think that 130 is going to be an interesting level to watch. If we do see some kind of a reaction from there, I might actually think of getting involved with being obviously long the USD CAD. Now, having to do with the USD MXN, though, I think that the situation is quite different here because I don't know, the move lower for the time being looks very impulsive to me. And, maybe this was one big move lower, this was a correction, and we have one more move to the downside waiting, and perhaps this is like a 1, 2, and this is a third wave. So far, we've stolen the 200 DMA, but I don't know, the USD MXN looks to me like a sell the rip kind of opportunity instead of buying the dip. I know that a lot of people have been attempting to buy this pullback in the USD MXN, many of which looking for macro reasons to do so, like who the new president is, what they're going to do, what they're not going to do, etc. But I don't know, the technical viewpoint, and especially the price action and the structure we've had since we found the top up there, I don't know. It doesn't convince me that much that I should be looking for a level to buy it. I would most probably be looking, let's say, at an area like 1945 and above that, like 1970, as good selling opportunities. But that's my viewpoint on that. I just wanted to share it because I've seen that it's a topic of debate. Now, another currency pair I wanted to show is the USD SEK. And why is that? Is because the USD SEK is actually toying around with an ascending trend line support, quite an important one, as you see from here. I do think that if we close on a daily basis below this, we will at least extend down to this area that has already given us like two lows, which is 857. If not lower at 852, which is a clearly is clearly a support resistance area. I mean, it has acted multiple times as a resistance. Why not act as support from that point on? It was actually the breakout area as well. So I do think that USD SEK is another pair to watch, exactly as the USD NOK. They're both at the precipice of breaking down. One of them from a head and shoulders formation, the other one from this important trend line. And as we
Steve.
Yes, Telio?
Sorry to interrupt. Just one thing to note: tomorrow we have Norway CPI, which always drives the market if it surprises either way. So that might be the trigger to push it lower. You never know.
What are the expectations for tomorrow's CPI, Telio?
2.4% year-on-year is the expectation. That's up from 2.3 from last reading, and comfortably above the target. So I think Norges Bank will be hiking sometime late summer. My view.
Yeah, isn't there an election in Sweden too, guys?
Sorry, say again?
Election coming in Sweden?
Good question. Oh, you've caught me unprepared. I need to check.
Okay. Anyway, I think I was reading about it. That's why I brought it up. Okay. Thank you, Steph.
Thank
you are right. It's in on the 9th of September.
Oh, okay.
I need to start I need to start reading up on that. Thanks, Dale.
All right, bro.
So Aussie yen, several interpretations here. One of them was that this was a bull flag, the one that you see with red intermittent lines, right? But we've already violated that. I mean, we've passed above it. So another is that this was a channel, the blue one. In any case, you can also see a little inverted head and shoulders formation down here, despite this being the daily. If we go down, you can see it. There it is. It's not a beautiful one, obviously. It's quite a nasty one, but it's still an inverted head and shoulders formation. So we do see a rebound from here, and that opens the door for another retest of the 84 area. Now, obviously, as long as we remain, within this formation, things are quite choppy. But so I want us to have a look at a few of the yen pairs. That doesn't mean that they have a clear outlook for all of them. So this is one that is quite perplexing, in my opinion. I wouldn't be doing anything here. I mean, we are exactly in the middle of this recent more or less range. The Kiwi yen, I think that the Kiwi yen, this looks to me like a descending wedge of some kind. So, I would be cautious, especially as long as we remain below 76. But if we do break above 76, I would be very closely monitoring this descending trend line that you see in blue, because if we actually break above it, and especially given the false breaks that we had lower, I would be very, very worried if I was short in this case, right? Too early for that. I mean, as I said, 76 is the first area of resistance that might actually do the work of turning it lower once again, but it is something I'm monitoring. CAD yen, it's one of the pairs that I was actually looking to produce some more weakness, especially after we got the breakdown below this channel. But instead, it looks to me like it actually created a wedge, which tells me that at the very least, there might be one more leg missing to the upside before lower. So, like perhaps an equality pushing higher, as long as we remain below this red trend line. By the way, I would remain bearish anyhow, and you can see why. If I zoom out, you can see how important, how long-term this formation was. It looks very corrective to me. So the fact that we broke lower is quite important, and also the fact that the move lower that we had from that high was very clearly impulsive in nature. So I do remain bearish the CAD yen, but it looks to me like there might be one more leg to the upside missing before this downtrend reasserting itself, right? So I just wanted to stress that out. Euro yen, also quite an important pair to watch. I have been monitoring this, and I have been warning and writing in the chat room from some time ago, simply because we are now breaking out of this descending channel, and this is quite a bullish development actually. So if we confirm this, and especially if we close above 130.30, I would actually be very, very careful in being short the euro yen. I think that it has a chance of actually extending to the upside. Who knows, even ending up being more bullish than initially expected, right? So it was one of the pairs, because of this and because of the V-shaped recovery, it was one of the pairs that I had made clear that I wouldn't be shorting having to do with the yen pairs. And especially in this case, it's actually probably my first candidate that if I wanted to buy some kind of a yen pair, probably my first choice would be the euro yen. Now, pound yen is also recovering, but to be honest, as long as it remains below this ascending trend line, I would be very, very cautious. So, for example, if we get a test of this trend line, I think I would be attempting to be short. So, I do still maintain, my bearish view about the pound yen, as long as we remain below this trend line, which roughly passes from 149 at the moment. Regardless, we're currently testing some horizontal resistance area here at 147.50. So, there is also a chance of rejection from here. It doesn't look that possible, to be honest, but especially the 149 area would be monitoring very closely. Dale, do we have an interview, by the way, today? I forgot to ask you before. Use the Swiss. One more thing I wanted to show. Use the Swiss, still consolidating. As long as it's consolidating, I have no idea if this is a triangle, because it can be a triangle or it can be an expanding triangle, but definitely this is some kind of a consolidation. So I would expect sooner rather than later they use the Swiss to break to the upside, but I think it's not ready yet. Definitely something to monitor and pay attention to, that is obviously very highly correlated, is what's happening with the Euro Swiss. Why? Simply because the move higher in the Euro Swiss looks corrective to me, and that's definitely something that's going to affect. So we might have more USD Swiss weakness first, because I simply see a decent potential that the Swiss is going to be strengthening by judging from what I see here in the Euro Swiss. I do see this as a potential pennant, and if we do, so far it's moving as I expected. We drew that several days ago. I would be looking for 117 as a strong area of resistance. A little bit lower, we find the confluence of the 50 and the 200 DMA. That's at 116.70. So if we do see a rejection anywhere between 116.17 and 117.20, within those 50 pips, I would be looking for an extension lower in the Euro Swiss. Okay. Now let's have a look at the DAX. Here it is. I wanna just make clear here the fact that we rebounded from the confluence of supports we were looking for at 12,100 is obviously important, but unless we clear the 12,600 area, another move to the downside is definitely not impossible. So what's closely 12,600? I think that if DAX wants actually to extend even more to the downside, this is the place to begin doing that. And the FTSE looks the least bullish, the least bearish of all the indices. This looks to me like a pull flag. It was a clean ABC formation so far. It almost made it, like, for 5 handles or whatever it is, 5, 6, 7 handles. It almost made it to a perfect ABC, and it's currently testing this channel's resistance. This is also the 50 DMA here. So, I would be monitoring this very closely, because I think that if we confirm a breakout from there, we should be headed to new highs, and the next target would be the 127% extension of the last move lower, which comes at 8,045. So that's what I think about the FTSE. Now, if we do get rejected from there, perhaps then we're looking at a different, a more complex kind of a corrective move lower, but I would still be viewing that initially as a corrective move. So one way or another, I think FTSE is very interesting to keep track of. It might be producing an opportunity to buy it sooner rather than later. So let me have a look at a few questions and see if there is something you want me to have a look at. Could you please, the Aussie? Yeah, we had a look at the Aussie. But let's have a closer look if you want. Dale, but still, historically platinum trades higher than gold. Baron spoke about this. Do you have an opinion on which looks better? Platinum has been underperforming gold for a long period of time, and yeah, I agree with you. At some point, I do believe that platinum has to trade higher than gold once again, but doesn't seem to be the case yet, and doesn't seem to be ready to do that yet. So I think that if we have a fast look at the ratio, which ratio? Gold to platinum ratio. As you see, this is a very well-established uptrend, right? Just look at it. In essence, from the middle of 2008 until now, we've just been pushing higher. And, just look at this. This looked like a nice wedge which, you know, would give a very nice signal if we actually did break it to the downside, but instead we actually showed out to the upside. So I think that, you know, reversing this is not something that's about to happen. Now, if we drop down back below within this wedge and we actually at some point break this support, then yes, then I would be looking for platinum to once again start doing catch up with gold, right? And I do think that at some point this is going to happen, but you know, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Hell of a throw over.
Yeah, perhaps that's exactly what I want to say. Perhaps that was a hell of a throwover, and perhaps that was the last hurrah in gold overperforming platinum. But it's too early to tell with confidence yet, right, Dale?
Yeah, you got to wait till it's back inside the wedge.
Exactly. So, you know, until then, I think that we need to remain more cautious. I have a friend asking, do we have an interview today, by the way, Dale?
Yeah, we have Bitcoin Bella here today.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to pass it to you in 1 minute.
Okay,
just
buddy.
two more things. IWM moved lower. We had said that, you know, it remains bullish even if it makes it back to this broken trend line. But so far it seems to have found support, you know, lower, at a higher level than that.
Maybe now it fulfills your target that it didn't quite get to before the last
perhaps
decline.
This confluence at the 161.8. Yeah, perhaps that will be the case. In any way, you know, you cannot dismiss the fact that the IWM has been in a textbook uptrend, higher highs and higher lows all the way. So please keep respecting this uptrend. I mean, there is no clear indication that you should be fading that yet. And now
the Russell is kind of like the one thing that makes me suspicious of dollar weakness, because it performs much better with dollar strength. So I was thinking that, you know, maybe one more bout of dollar strength and the Russell might get to that 170, 180. Just a thought.
But keep something in mind here, Dale, right? There is a chance that during a trade war, we might get Russell overperforming. Why? Because obviously the Russell companies are somewhat isolated because they're domestic. And I say somewhat because don't forget that many of those companies might have their input costs increased, right? So
no one's insulated.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
You, not me, not Russell, not Peter, not Paul, or any of them. None of us,
exactly.
Buddy. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the case. Now, having to do with those to close this up, I think that 75 cents. I also wrote it in the analysis during the weekend. 75 cents is definitely the first target to watch. Why? It's previous support resistance area. It's around level, like right 75. The 50 DMA is also there. So I do think that, you know, for the Aussie to start, you know, behaving more bullishly, we first need to clear 75. If it clears 75, I would then be looking higher towards 76.40. Okay, but I do think that 75 remains a key level for Aussie, and you know, I would actually only be buying dips if we break 75, right? So okay, thank you.
Good job.
I'll see you all tomorrow. Enjoy the interview, Dale.
Okay, buddy. Thank you, Steve Vogie. Hello, Bella. I'm going to now make you the presenter. I'm not sure if you want to screen share. If not, I'll go to show your YouTube channel and take a look at some Bitcoin. Hello, hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Okay, thank you so much for coming here today, Bella. You know, I've been to your YouTube channel, and you know, I'm one of those baby boomers that's having a hard time wrapping my head around crypto. And when I see how obsessed, you know, people like you are with blockchain and crypto, it does make me want to learn. So I'm wondering what you were doing maybe just prior to getting involved and calling yourself Bitcoin Bella, and what drew you into it? What was the experience that made you a convert into crypto?
Sure. Well, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, very good, very clearly.
Great. I'm actually a licensed lawyer in the United States, and I've been practicing for over 10 years. I had a corporate job, yeah, for a very long time. And in early 2017, I quit my job and became a partner with my friend at his law firm. At that time, he told me about Bitcoin and all the aspects about it. I don't know if you want me to go into it or if you know about it, the immutability, basically the peer-to-peer technology, unbanking of the banking of the unbanked, excuse me.
Right.
And just, all the different interesting aspects that go into it. So he said,
what was the most
Bitcoin.
appealing to you out of that whole group? What really grabbed you?
It was the opportunity to own your own, like have your own money. It's kind of interesting because I'm very passionate about my parents moving over to the United States. We're immigrants from Vietnam. And at the time that, the war happened, they escaped from Vietnam. And but during that time, right before they were able to escape, fiat money wasn't working. Right.
Okay, so you lived through a currency crisis.
Yes, my family.
Vietnam. Okay, so that that could kind of leave a real deep impression and mistrust that just like the government says, the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, those are just words to you.
They are. I mean, I do have faith in the United States fiat money at the time. But I heard about different countries like Venezuela and other places that are in crisis, and I do think it's important to be able to have your own, stash, be it gold or whatever, And I just thought that Bitcoin was very interesting, so that was the most important aspect in my mind at the time.
Okay, so do you think you could arrange for a yuppie, a guy like me, to have my wallet made of leather? So that I feel more comfortable.
You bet. I do understand.
Carrying a wallet around.
Yeah, I'm such a newbie still and I'm not a technical person at all, and that's why I think that I've been making these videos on my YouTube channel, because they're basically saying like, I'm not a techie person. I don't know really anything about trading, or I didn't start knowing anything about trading, and tell me how to do things like a paper wallet. I mean, do you even know what that is? Like, I
No.
still don't. Yeah. And
do you have one? I mean, you have wallets, though, right?
Yes. I mean, there's. Yes, I do.
What's it look like?
Well, what you do is you end up putting your secret codes like onto paper, and a lot of people put them onto a hard wallet. Which is, it looks like just a little like electronic piece. I mean, I'll do a show on it and show you how to do it, and like,
I think for novices like me that maybe just want to check it out and have it, and because I've also heard some stories like this guy that I teach trading to and mentoring, his son lost, I don't know, about 580,000 got stolen from him.
Yeah.
How
that's a
how
problem
does that
right
happen?
now.
Yeah. How do you protect yourself from that? Could be such a life-changing event, especially if you really got aggressive and believed in it and wanted to have the portability. I like the portability of it. So basically, you're saying a wallet is something that's kind of like the little things that you put in your computer that's like a memory card or something like that?
Well, there are wallets that are online. A lot of people lose their money by leaving them on exchanges. Bitcoin itself is very secure, but if you leave it
so
your private codes,
so those are the only losses that you're hearing about, because I talk about not leaving a lot of money on unregulated exchanges. You don't have to have any experience in crypto to know that's not a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
there's other ways that people can steal from you, and I've actually, there's a bunch of ways, but the safest thing that you can do is take your Bitcoin or take your other cryptocurrencies and put it on your Ledger or your Nano S or whatever other kind of cold wallet or other wallet, like offline. So if you leave it online, if you leave anything online, just expect that it's going to be gone. Exactly.
Okay. All right, that's great advice. And you're going to do a video about this so that a neophyte like me could learn how to do it. And
I will at some point, yeah. And I'll ask all the questions that people are afraid to ask because I don't mind looking stupid.
Yeah, isn't that something? I say this, and you could use the line. There's no such thing as a silly question, only silly answers.
I agree.
So Bella, you've been in this. You were here for the euphoria of an $18,000 Bitcoin. What's it been like, and how have people that really, might have some price sensitivity, and, it's hard for me just to say, well, buy something anywhere because I am price sensitive and I can read a chart. So what's it like out there a year later after the high at 19,000? How are people handling a bear market? I know there have been previous ones, but this is a pretty big one, especially if you got caught being a buyer sharply higher.
It's pretty bleak right now. In terms of the people that are on Twitter, that's mainly where I interact with people, is crypto Twitter.
Okay.
A lot of people have gone. I think a lot of people may have sold their crypto, or they're just too depressed. It depends on when they entered. In terms of like people, like my friends that asked me about it, I told them about it when it was really low. And of course, they only came to me when it was really high. And I even said, like, it's probably not a good time, but everybody, they call it FOMO'd in, just fear of missing out. A few of them bought it, but people who actually care about Bitcoin and the long-term idea about it, you don't care. Then, I mean, if you know how to trade a bear market, then get in, right? But if you don't, then actually, if you don't, I think this is probably the best time, because they always say for anything, right? I guess, I don't know if you guys always say it, buy it when it's low and then wait for it to go up. If you believe that it will be going up, then now's the time, because it's pretty low right now.
Yeah, so besides Bitcoin, do you have any other favorites or altcoins that you pay attention to in your universe? You cover those?
I do. I have a few smaller cap coins, low cap coins, but those are like basically me gambling to see if they're going to go up, right? Like 100x or whatever, and it's happened in the past to people. So there's those. And then in terms of like people who don't know anything about cryptocurrencies, I really would suggest looking at projects that actually have use cases, developers that are working on it, that keep you updated.
Is that called what they call a white paper?
The white paper is really just the roadmap. It's funny because, the white paper is really just a roadmap for what the coin or token is. And it's important to have one so that it can explain like what the project is. But it's basically, I don't know, there's a lot, I don't know how much you want me to get into blockchain, but there are a few projects that people are working on that will actually, I believe, will become working products that will be really useful in the future. For instance, there's like different coins and tokens that apply to, I don't know, like ticketing, like a ticket master, but on the blockchain, so that there can't be, like people stealing tickets, or like, I don't know, all the different kinds of fraudulent events that happen because they're on a ledger, right? A public ledger that you can't.
Can you explain the difference between an altcoin and a token?
A token, well, I think tokens and coins are all under the altcoin umbrella, kind of. This might be kind of wrong, but basically a token is something that will be on like either an Ethereum blockchain or some other kind of blockchain, and a coin is just like on itself a currency. So both can be used as currencies, but the coin, I believe, is merely only for currency, right? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
As opposed to being a blockchain where you can like put smart contracts on it. It's very complicated. So there's
really
a lot
is.
more that goes into it. Yeah.
So let me ask you, I know this is a fairly new wave. Are there any books or people besides yourself or beginners to go to begin to educate themselves on this, so before they lay their money out, they really know what they're doing? And maybe you've read a few, or you completely self-taught on this, just living it.
I'm living it, but I have watched a lot of YouTube videos by people who have written books. For instance, I think that if you want to get into cryptocurrency, you really should just start with learning what Bitcoin is.
Okay.
And to do that, then one of the best people, is Andreas Antonopoulos, and he has a few books that are really good, but his videos are also really, really good. Yeah, somebody else named Jameson Lopp, he has a whole page that has updated resources that you can click on links to teach you.
Yeah, I see you watch Tone Bays. I've interviewed Tone. Has Tone been helpful for you?
He's more helpful in terms of trading, I think, because he does go over charts a lot, which obviously would be good for your page. But he does also, I think, talk about Bitcoin as well. And he has like a daily news show on YouTube or something that I've seen. Yeah, so I mean, any of those bigger names are really, I think, are safe enough to go and kind of dabble in and to get your feet wet.
Since you don't trade, maybe you don't even have a favorite exchange, but don't I still have to go to an exchange to convert my dollars to Bitcoin? What's the simplest way of converting your dollars to Bitcoin?
In the United States, Coinbase is probably the simplest because they put a user interface on top of everything to make things easier. If you know how to like trade and look at a chart, then they have underneath their interface is, I think, called GDAX, and you can actually, there's like less fees or something like that, and you can put your limit order or whatever you want and see. So yeah, it's easy. There's also an application on your phone that you can get, which is called Cash App, and yeah, that app is not only for Bitcoin. It's it's like a Venmo style application where you can I think like send your friends money and stuff like that. Like not, I mean, you can send your friends fiat money. Yeah, and they
are we friends now?
We're friends now. I'll send you some if you want to try. They say that's the best way to get involved is to, send somebody a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, I tell you what, Bella, it was really, I'm so glad you came. And
I'm so happy to be on here. Thank you.
So because I'm going to make you my mentor in Bitcoin, because I do want to learn about something that, could be revolutionary. And, I want to break that saying that you can't teach an old dog a new trick.
You're definitely not an old dog to me, but I'm happy to help you with anything that I know. And if I don't know, then I'm happy to point you to the right direction.
Thank you so much, Bella. So everyone, all the viewers and people that watch the video later, you could follow Bella on Twitter at Bitcoin Bella. Don't forget the underscore at the end of her name at Bitcoin Bella. And also she has her YouTube link on Twitter. And thank you so much, Bella, for giving me and everyone listening a pretty good primer on Bitcoin and crypto.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
All right, everyone, thank Bella. All right, see ya.
Thank you.
All right, so that's it for our session today, guys. Let me just take a quick look at what's going on here. So here's Bitcoin. We just take a quick look, show my screen, make me the presenter. There's Bella still with us. Okay, here I am. Okay, Bella left. Okay, so here's Bitcoin. I know that price sensitive wise that a lot of people are looking for one more low around 4,000. in Bitcoin. But just take a look at, we're getting a little bit of a fade in the euro. So, you know, I'm thinking be aware tomorrow for maybe there might be some turnaround Tuesday candidates on the long side of the dollar. It might even be something like USD SEC is trying to reverse here. You have a little 3 driver here. So just a few things I'm looking at going into tomorrow. Good hunting the rest of the day, everyone. See you guys in the private chat. And remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings, or don't just count your crypto, count your blessings, and I'll see everyone tomorrow. Adios.